The Indian River Lagoon, one of the most diverse estuaries in the world. Home to over 3,000 different species of wildlife, the Indian River Lagoon has become part of the daily lives of people who live in the East Coast of Florida. However, this sanctuary of wildlife will soon come to an end. In recent years, the Indian River Lagoon has drastically changed. Runoff, pollution, and overdevelopment all have affected the lagoon in their own way. Many people are aware of the damage being caused by human interference. However, they struggle to find ways to help. Others, however, are not aware of their consequences. This video will detail multiple different ways in which the Indian River Lagoon ecosystem is dying and what you can do to help. In recent times, the IRL has appeared in the news many times with announcements of a new algae bloom. Most people aren't aware of what that means and write it off as just another news article. However, these algae blooms are a very real issue that affect everyone who lives near the lagoon. The last big algae bloom back in 2011, thousands of dead fish quite literally covered the surface of the lagoon and caused major damage we are still recovering from. Dubbed brown tide, excess nutrients from the water cause algae that forms in the surface of the water. These nutrients come from a man-made source and include nitrogen and phosphate. Once the algae grows, it covers the surface of the water, in turn causing the bottom of the lagoon to be devoid of sunlight. Without sunlight, seagrass and other vegetation cannot photosynthesize, leading to animals that depend on vegetation left with no more food, causing them to starve. The dead bodies of the fish decompose into nutrients, compounding onto the nutrient problem. To make sure this doesn't happen again, there are many steps we can take to prevent another fatal loss of habitat. For starters, the removal of muck on the bottom of the lagoon is essential to removing the current nutrients out of the lagoon. Muck is nitrogen and phosphate filled with grime that covers the bottom of the lagoon and is what algae blooms feed off of. There are many cleanup crews that have helped remove the excess muck from the lagoon, and they continue to help control the nutritional balance of the lagoon. The current issue is how to prevent this from happening again. Researchers have been able to track down some of the main contributors in the lagoon's nutrient issue. The main source of nitrogen leakage into the IRL are septic tanks. These tanks are used for waste when the household is not connected to city plumbing. In septic tanks, it is very common for nitrogen from the water inside to leak out into the soil surrounding it. Over time, the nitrogen seeps down into the lagoon and causes blooms. Nitrogen leaks from septic tanks aren't the only cause of the blooms. Stormwater runoff also plays a hand in polluting the lagoon. The Indian River Lagoon has a rare type of water known as brackish water. It is the combination of fresh water and salt water that makes it so special. However, when the balance of these two types of water is lopsided, the wildlife and ecosystem become unsuited for their habitat. With rainwater runoff, this imbalance occurs and leads to harsher algae blooms in a destroyed ecosystem. This issue is being tackled by the Stormwater Program of the Brevard County Natural Resources Management Department.
I am in the Stormwater Division, which we deal with flooding, we deal with court and quality of water, the stormwater, and the stormwater goes falls on the roads and falls on the ground, and it ends up in the Indian River Lagoon or the St. Johns River, depending where you live in Brevard County.
What can you do to help prevent another algae bloom from occurring? Simply checking your sewage system is enough to contribute to the IRL. If you live by the lagoon, make sure you follow the code when dealing with lawn clippings and fertilizers. Even after the devastating effects of the last algae bloom, most people do not follow code, and lawn fertilizer still ends up in the lagoon every day. These had a huge role in the last algae bloom and have since been put under strict regulations, so make sure to follow these as to not incur another bloom. In addition, it is important to be careful what goes into your storm drain, as it will probably end up in the lagoon. Gasoline and antifreeze have no place in the lagoon, so don't dump it in your drain. The most beneficial way is to get informed.
We have what is called lagoonloyal.com. Lagoonloyal.com. It's a website where people get educated about the Indian River Lagoon. Okay, they have the option of signing in and earning points as they get educated or participate on events. Could be volunteering, could be going to something like the Indian River Lagoon Day that we had in last November. But the most important thing by yourself is to spread the word, and that has a lot of power because there's a very logarithmic magnifying power on it.
While, due to current world events, there are very limited plans for cleaning events, you can still donate to organizations such as One Lagoon to help fund the fight to keep our lagoon safe. In 2020, as well as 2021, there is another algae threat known as green tide. It is not known for sure, however, there is a high possibility that this new algae could have the same or more of an effect on the lagoon as brown tide. By taking simple steps such as watching where you dump contaminated water, you can help create a brighter future for our lagoon.